Imagine you're just walking down the street, right, minding your own business, and you accidentally kick a massive solid stone.
Oh, ouch. Yeah, that's the worst.
Right. You feel that sharp, undeniable pain radiating up your toe, and you feel the heavy, stubborn weight of the rock. You hear that scrape as it skitters across the pavement.
Yeah, it's a very visceral experience.
Exactly. To all of your senses, that stone is just frustratingly real. But what if I told you that the stone and your aching toe and the pavement and honestly, absolutely everything you see around you right now is fundamentally just emptiness?
It's a huge claim.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive. You are stepping into the role of the ultimate explorer today because, well, we're going to totally dismantle your understanding of physical reality.
Yeah, we have quite the conceptual journey ahead of us today. We are pulling from a really fascinating 2006 text called The Infinite Harmony of Matter and Mind.
Right, and specifically, we're focusing on an article by a writer known as Tao One, right?
Exactly, yeah. The piece is titled The Chapter of Preaching Tao, Article 10, The Mysteries of Space.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I have to say, this source text is just completely mind-bending. I mean, it starts at the absolute deepest, most microscopic layers of a simple, everyday stone, and somehow, through pure logic, it launches us into the limitless, like, faster-than-light travel of the human mind.
What's really fascinating here is, well, how masterfully the text weaves together ancient spiritual philosophy with structural quantum physics.
Oh, yeah, it's such a wild mix.
It is. It uses the cold, hard language of science to explore the absolute limits of our physical reality, and then it just uses these spiritual frameworks to break right through those boundaries.
Right.
It is an incredibly unique way of viewing the universe.
So, before we can even begin to understand the vastness of space, the author insists we actually have to start by locating matter itself. Like, we have to start incredibly small to understand the incomprehensibly big.
Yeah, and the text gives us this brilliant visualization exercise to do that. It asks a really simple question: where is matter?
All right, so we look up at the Milky Way. But from our vantage point here on Earth, the Milky Way just looks like, I don't know, a cloudy smudge in the night sky. We can't actually grasp its materiality.
No, we can't. So the text tells us to zoom in. We zoom into our own solar system. But, even a solar system is way too vast, too abstract for our daily lived experience.
Yeah, like I can't hold a solar system in my hands to prove it exists.
Exactly. Which brings us all the way back down to that simple stone on the street.
To really prove that matter exists, the text starts peeling this stone like an onion. So we look at the stone, and science tells us it's made of molecules.
Right.
We peel that layer back, and the molecules are made of atoms. We peel the atoms back, and we find nuclei and electrons. Inside the nuclei, we find protons and neutrons. Inside those, we find quarks.
And the text doesn't just stop at protons. It dives deep into the absolute quantum weeds, quanta, gluons, bosons.
Yeah, it gets really granular.
It does, but you don't need an advanced physics degree to understand what the author's pointing out here.
Right, thank goodness.
Think of these subatomic concepts not as solid, microscopic billiard balls, but as tiny flashes of energy and the invisible glue holding them together.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, the author is showing us that at the absolute lowest level of existence, there is no solid stuff. It's just relationships and invisible forces.
The text makes a point about scale here that completely disoriented me. It notes that if you took a trillion protons, and lined them up end to end in a perfectly straight line, that line would only be 1 single millimeter long.
It's almost impossible to picture.
Right. A trillion of the building blocks of our reality, and they barely span the width of a pencil tip.
It really forces you to confront how incredibly tiny the components of our reality actually are.
Which leads to the author's ultimate question, right? What is the cell of the cell of the cell? Like, when you peel away every single layer of that subatomic onion, what is actually left at the very center?
And the text's answer is emptiness.
Emptiness.
Yeah, the true foundational nature of matter is quite literally empty. The author argues that space is simply the distance between matter, but since matter itself is fundamentally empty at its core, well, the text quotes the Buddha's wisdom here.
Oh, right, the Buddha quote.
Yeah, form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Space is simply the realm of matter, and matter is space. They are the exact same thing.
Okay, so I am tracking with the idea that matter is mostly empty space on a quantum level. I get that. But that creates a massive logical pothole for me.
How so?
Well, I have to push back on this complete dismissal of physical reality for a second. If the core of everything is just empty space, How does it hurt so much when I drop that solid stone on my foot?
Fair point.
I mean, I get the science, but my lived experience says that stone is very, very real. It feels like zooming in on a high-res digital photograph, right?
Yeah.
You zoom in until you just see the empty, dark space between the glowing pixels on the monitor, and then you conclude that the picture itself isn't real. But the picture is absolutely still there.
Right. Oh, that is a brilliant analogy. Yeah, the picture is absolutely still there.
Right.
And the text isn't saying the pain in your foot isn't real to your nervous system. That's not the point. By establishing that matter is fundamentally empty at its core, the author is aligning ancient Eastern philosophy with the verified reality of modern quantum physics.
Okay, so they're bridging the gap.
Exactly. They are laying the philosophical groundwork to prove that physical boundaries, the things we think trap us, limit us, and cause us pain, aren't actually as solid or permanent as we perceive them to be. The goal is to soften up our rigid definition of reality.
I see. So if we accept that matter is an illusion of scale, the next logical domino to fall has to be space itself.
Right.
Because if there is no solid stuff to measure the distance between, the whole concept of a mile or a light year, it just starts to unravel.
It does, and the author introduces a really fascinating definition of how space functions to address that very unraveling.
Yeah, the text argues that the size of space depends entirely on the composition and distribution of matter. Space is not an empty box that things exist inside of.
No, it's a relational metric.
The table analogy the author uses really helped me visualize this.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The text says to imagine you place two tables side by side in a room. The space between them is very small, just a few inches. Now take one of those tables and transport it to Mars.
Suddenly, the space between those two specific tables is massive.
Exactly. Now move one of them billions of light years away to another galaxy.
Right.
The space between them expands infinitely. Space only exists because those two tables exist to create a distance between them.
And the author actually compares the infinite vastness of this space to the digits of pi.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the numbers after the decimal point just keep going forever, completely boundless and incalculable. And the text categorizes this specific type of observable physical space as Yang space.
Yang space. So this is the space we explore with our eyes, our deep space telescopes, our scientific instruments. It's the material universe.
Right, exactly.
But then the author takes this incredibly vast, majestic concept of the infinite universe
Yeah.
and completely undercuts it. I mean, they give us this hilariously cynical view of Yang space.
A tone shift is striking, honestly. The author essentially strips away all the romance of space exploration.
They really do. The author basically says Yang space is a total trap. It is an insurmountable chasm.
Yeah, we are limited by the speed of light, which physics tells us is a hard speed limit we cannot break.
Right.
Because of that, the only place we can actually live right now is Earth, and because our biological material lifespans are so incredibly short, traveling to and living on distant stars is physically impossible.
And the author doesn't just rely on the cold laws of physics to burst our bubble either.
Yeah.
They bring in pure, brutal economics.
Yes, they do.
They say, look, from a technical standpoint, we don't need to have spacecraft that can get us outside our local neighborhood.
Yeah.
But even if we miraculously built the ships, the average person wouldn't be able to afford a ticket.
The economics of Yang space are entirely exclusionary.
Exactly. We just have to stay obediently on Earth anyway while billionaires fly around.
Yeah.
And then comes my favorite line. The author says, even if you had a ship, and even if you could somehow afford the ticket, you'd still just end up dying on another planet anyway.
Yeah.
After all that effort, the biological clock runs out. Quote, how pointless.
It is a remarkably blunt assessment of the human condition.
It really is. But here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I have to push back on this cynicism on behalf of humanity for a second.
Oh, Eric.
Isn't the journey the point? Like, human beings are natural explorers. The text just writes off the entirety of physical space exploration as a total bummer because it costs too much money and ultimately ends in death. That just feels so defeatist.
I get why you'd say that, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, you'll see that the author isn't just being arbitrarily pessimistic about NASA or something.
Okay, so what is it?
This is a very deliberate rhetorical strategy. The text is purposefully pointing out the absolute, undeniable hard limits of physical Yang reality. The speed of light, cellular aging, economic disparity. mortality.
Oh, wow, okay.
By painting yang space as a beautiful but ultimately inaccessible and lethal prison, the author creates a burning need within you, the reader, for an alternative way to exist.
Oh, I see. They're bolting all the doors in the physical world completely shut, forcing us to look around the room for a window.
Precisely. If yang space leaves us biologically trapped and ultimately dead, what is the alternative? Where can we actually be free?
Well, if physical reality is a dead end, there has to be a non-physical reality. And the text offers one in the form of 36 dimensions, and specifically this concept of yin space.
Right, and to understand yin space, we have to unpack the text's heavy reliance on the principle of Tai Chi.
Okay, the yin and yang symbol.
Yes. The core of Tai Chi is the idea that reality isn't a monolith, but a system of mutually dependent opposites. You cannot have light without dark. You cannot have heat without cold. Therefore, logically, if there is a rigid material yang space, physics and philosophy both demand the existence of an infinite, non-material yin space to balance the cosmic equation.
So while yang space is made of protons, neutrons, and physical distance, yin space is composed of consciousness, spirit, mind, and divinity.
Exactly.
And the author asks a series of questions that honestly just stop me in my tracks. They ask, where is the space in our dreams?
It's such a good question.
It is. When you close your eyes and perfectly picture your childhood home, where does that memory actually exist? When you imagine a sprawling fantasy landscape, what space is that imagination occupying?
It's a really profound way to frame human consciousness. I mean, if we explore space only with our physical vision or our scientific instruments, space seems strictly one-dimensional and material.
Right, just rocks and gas.
But when we dream, we experience vast, sprawling spaces that our telescopes simply cannot detect. The author is demanding we take those spaces seriously.
And in this yin space, all those depressing rules of yang space we just talked about, they completely vanish. The speed limit of light, gone. The author points out that non-material movement is superluminal, or even instantaneous. In the blink of an eye, your consciousness can reach non-material planets billions of light years away.
Yeah, you don't need a spaceship. You don't need $1 billion for a ticket, and you certainly aren't constrained by an 80-year biological lifespan.
Because your mind, in yin space, is not burdened by mass or gravity.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? The way I'm reading it, it sounds like the text is arguing that the human mind is a literal transport mechanism. It's like a built-in biological hyperdrive.
That's a great way to put it.
But, okay, playing devil's advocate for a second, isn't a dream just a biological parlor trick happening inside the meat of our brains?
I knew you were going to ask that.
I mean, sure, I can close my eyes and imagine I'm on a planet a billion light years away, but how is imagining a planet in any way the same as actually traveling to one?
This raises an important question, and it is the absolute crux of the author's philosophy. Consciousness determines existence.
Consciousness determines existence.
Yes. We are deeply conditioned by yang space to believe that only what we can physically touch is real. But by asking where memories and dreams physically reside, where those miles of dream landscapes actually are, the author is challenging us to validate our internal dimensions as real, measurable spaces.
Okay.
They aren't just electrical misfires in the skull. They are distinct, non-material spaces that our consciousness actively navigates.
I feel like if you're listening to this right now while commuting or washing the dishes, you're probably raising an eyebrow.
Oh, for sure.
The author knows we're going to doubt this. They anticipate our exact skepticism, the idea that yin space is just this fluffy illusion. And to defend the reality of this non-material world, the author does something brilliant, especially considering this was written way back in 2006.
They utilize what we might call the virtual reality defense.
Right. But before we get to the technology aspect, the text makes a massive, almost unbelievable promise. It says that if you can master navigating yin space, you can reach beautiful, tangible feeling worlds.
And it names them specifically.
Yeah. The 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world's Celestial Islands continent.
The mechanism for reaching these places is really fascinating. The text claims yin and yang can transform into each other. It depends entirely on what the author calls your life frequency.
Life frequency. Like a radio.
Think of it exactly like tuning a radio. The author suggests that your consciousness, your spirit, your thoughts, your moral and emotional state, it emits a specific frequency.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you vibrate with anxiety and materialism, you anchor yourself in the rigid yang space. But if your life frequency resonates at a higher, purer pitch, it dictates the form and environment your consciousness exists in, allowing you to access these celestial islands.
I can hear the listener thinking, Celestial Islands continent, that sounds like a level in a video game.
It does.
And the author knows it sounds like a fairy tale. So they use computer networks to prove their point. The text argues that before computers were invented, if you tried to explain virtual space to someone, they would have thought you were completely insane.
Absolutely. They would never acknowledge a non-physical space as a real place.
Yet today, we navigate virtual spaces constantly. They are a fundamental part of human existence.
And the author specifically points to a website called Lifechanyuan. They ask the reader, do you believe there is a Lifechanyuan in the computer network space?
Right, and if you've typed in the URL and visited the website, you unequivocally say, yes, it exists.
But if you haven't, you might doubt its existence entirely.
Yeah, the text uses the internet to prove that spaces can definitively, undeniably exist without being made of physical yang matter.
It is a strikingly modern comparison for a text from 2006.
Oh, totally.
Long before the concept of the metaverse was mainstream, the author recognized that the internet is a non-material space that has incredibly real impacts on our material world, our emotions, and our consciousness.
This realization leads the author to pose some massive, almost overwhelming philosophical questions directly to you, the reader.
Very heavy question.
Yeah. The text asks, what is an illusion? What is reality? If you are having a vivid, beautiful dream, would you prefer to wake up or continue dreaming beautifully for an entire lifetime?
Would you rather have a 10,000-year beautiful dream in yin space, or wake up and endure decades of anxiety, sorrow, and physical decay in the human world?
It is such a heavy question. I mean, the text asks if you would rather spend half a year touring a perfect virtual Earth on a computer or spend a lifetime exhausting yourself, dealing with travel logistics, canceled flights, and physical limits just to visit every place in material reality.
It's the ultimate virtual reality dilemma.
It literally is. This text from 2006 is actively advocating for what we might call today living in the simulation, as long as the simulation is beautiful and perfectly aligns with your life frequency.
The core belief of the entire text is summarized in one perfect sentence. The illusory is real, and the real is illusory. Yeah, if your mind experiences an event fully, the text argues that it genuinely does not matter if it happens in physical yang space or non-material yin space. The biological and spiritual impact on your consciousness, your memories, and your spirit is absolutely identical.
So why suffer?
Exactly. The author's ultimate argument is, why subject yourself to the physical decay and mortal limits of the yang world when the yin world offers boundless freedom?
It completely flips the script on how we live our lives.
Yeah.
We spend so much time and energy trying to anchor ourselves in the physical world, accumulating material things, and viewing our imaginations as just silly distractions.
We really do.
But this deep dive really turns that upside down. Let's recap the journey we just took. We started today by proving that a solid stone on the street is actually almost entirely empty space, that matter itself is just an illusion of scale.
We then deduced that because matter is empty, observable, physical yang space is actually a trap. It is a prison constrained by the unbreakable speed of light, financial costs, and human mortality.
Right. And finally, we discovered that our consciousness, our dreams, and our memories might not just be fleeting thoughts trapped in our skulls, but actual navigable dimensions, yin spaces that act as the ultimate faster-than-light vehicle for us to explore the infinite universe.
The author leaves us with a profound promise regarding these spaces. They write, "The way of the celestials is joyful, and the great void is their home."
That's beautiful.
By mastering what the text calls the 8 great mysteries of life, one can reach full enlightenment and comprehend these infinite non-material spaces.
It really forces you to evaluate your own life frequency, doesn't it? Are you vibrating at a level of stress, anxiety, and material limitation, or are you actively opening yourself up to the vastness of yin space?
It's a lot to think about.
It is a massive amount of philosophy to process. But before we wrap up today, there's a lingering thought I want to leave you with. It's something we haven't explicitly debated yet, but it has been hovering over this entire conversation about reality and illusion.
The fascinating intersection of this 2006 philosophy with our rapidly advancing current technology.
Yes. Look at how incredibly fast our modern virtual spaces are advancing today. Virtual reality, augmented reality, the ever-expanding depths of the internet and digital worlds. These spaces are becoming increasingly indistinguishable from physical reality.
They really are.
If this technological trend continues, Are we artificially building the exact yin space the author described?
It is a thrilling and honestly slightly terrifying proposition.
Right. Could our technology, our server farms and VR headsets, be the very thing that allows our consciousness to inhabit the great void without us ever needing to do the hard work of evolving spiritually?
Oh, wow.
Are we just coding our own celestial islands continent in silicon? It is definitely something to mull over the next time you put on a VR headset, or even just lose yourself scrolling through a digital world on your phone. Are you escaping reality, or are you just entering a different dimension of it?
It certainly redefines the concept of leaving a digital footprint.
That is the perfect way to look at it. Well, thank you for taking this mind-expanding deep dive into the sources with us today. It's been an absolute trip.
It has.
And hey, the next time you accidentally kick a stone on the sidewalk and feel that sharp pain in your toe, well, just remember, you're basically just stubbing your toe on empty space, like zooming into a high-res photo until there's nothing left but the microscopic gaps between the pixels. The pain might feel real, but maybe, just maybe, the real universe is waiting for you the second you close your eyes. Until next time.